Hey guys, welcome back for another month of Simply Lettered subscription. If you're new here, my name is Cheyenne. I am a calligraphy and engraving artist behind Simply Lettered Studio. I've taught a lot of in-person workshops, and my students were expressing how they didn't necessarily have anything to hold them accountable to keep learning once they left my classes. So I've come up with this resource for all of you, as it doesn't matter if you're a beginner calligrapher or a seasoned calligrapher. I know it is hard to take time to sit down and practice. I get so busy creating for other people and doing other projects that I have to put it in my schedule to sit down and practice. So I'm going to make life a little bit easier for you. The kit comes right to your door with a new tool every month, a new lesson, and a new guest artist. All the supplies you need. So for this month we have Sugey. She is an amazing calligraphy and lettering artist. She's provided a whole exemplar, envelope addressing templates and samples, and a quote, and I think we're just ready to get started. So let's go ahead and check it out. All right, guys, let's open this up and see all the fun stuff we get to do this month. So I've included this fun sticker for you guys. Just a vinyl sticker is a little extra to remind you to take time to create. Put that on your art box or supplies, wherever you can remind yourself. This month we are using the Stabilo fine liner. Looks like this. This is a really great brand if you're looking at other art supplies. Stabilo, and then also the Pentel brush sign pen. You're also going to get this beautiful rose gold foiled envelope. There should be two in your kit. Just have one here as a sample in mine. And then a deckled edge card on this high quality art paper. And then you'll also have these pretty die cut hearts. We're going to do, a variety of things with them. So you'll have a couple hearts and then a couple wax seals as well. So this is our project for this month. And then inside of your handout, here's just some tips and some tips about the subscription kit. I've included again a set of basic strokes. We talked about these last month, but it's always good to practice again. So it's another set of basic strokes and a blank guide sheet. And then Sugey, I mentioned, was our guest artist. You can see how beautiful her lettering style is. Right here she has included a capital exemplar. So in the calligraphy world, a full set of letters, A to Z, capital. This would be called an exemplar. And it's a good idea to write out your A to Z letters so that you have an exemplar, say, from February of 2023, and 6 months down the road, if you want to compare it and see your progress, that's a great thing to do with an exemplar. So this is called an exemplar in the calligraphy world. She has her capital exemplar, a lowercase exemplar, and just look how fun and flourished and modern, whimsical this script is. I just love it so much. And then she's included the sample phrases for the cards and some formatting samples for the front of the envelope, and then also some templates for you to use for the rest of forever, a straight one and an angled one. And then our monthly quote that you guys chose was "One kind word can warm 3 winter months," a Japanese proverb. So she's used the Stabilo fine liner and the Pentel brush pen, and then I have sent it to you a third way using both the Pentel brush pen and the Stabilo fine liner. And then you have your Bristol board here to put your final quote on. So let's go ahead and get started with our brush pens. Okay, so if you're new this month, we talked pretty extensively last month about brush pens, so I'll link that above so you can watch that as well. So brush pens just mean essentially that the nibs are going to be flexible, and I'll demonstrate that a little bit more. These two are really good. Beginner, but also experienced calligraphers use these a lot, but they're good for beginners because you can really control that small nib. Let me just show you in comparison. Grab some here from my supplies. Nibs can be quite large compared to that small Le Pen or the Pentel. Okay, so I was talking about how brush pens are meant to be flexible, and I'm going to demonstrate that for you just to kind of show you that they are really meant to allow you to use different pressures. So I have thin and thick, thin and thick, thick and thin, thick and thin. So that's what allows you to really create those beautiful lines, contrasting lines in calligraphy that really make it pleasing to the eye, is the thick and the thin lines. But the nib has to be flexible. And so a brush pen is going to imitate simply a paintbrush or a calligraphy pen. So what I mean by it imitating a paintbrush is if you look at a round paintbrush, this is just a size 6 brush, and you can see how it's pointed at the tip, similar to a brush pen. And then when you add pressure to it, the bristles are going to spread apart. So it's thin, you got that nice thin tip where you can get a thin line, and then when you add pressure, it's going to spread apart. So really, they've just taken the mess out of a paintbrush and put it in a brush pen, which is really handy and really quick and great for practicing. And then also the same thing applies to a calligraphy pen holder with a pointed pen nib. When you add pressure, let's see if I can show that. When you add pressure, the tines spread apart. That means more ink is released. And when you close it, less ink is released. So I'll just show you really quickly what that looks like so you can see how all of these tools relate. Okay, so I'm adding pressure, and you can see that you can get thick, thin to create that really pleasing look, because if it was all thick, it would just be really jumbled and messy. So thick and thin lines is what's going to make it interesting. So that's a little bit about brush pens. This will be another lesson on brush pen, and then we'll switch tools next month. All right, again, last month we went pretty extensively over the basic stroke, so I'm not going to go as in-depth. I'm just going to link that video for you so you have it as a resource. But if you're using guidelines, this one is done at 55-degree angle. If you're using guidelines, essentially, I don't keep my paper straight up and down like this. I'm going to turn my paper so that the guidelines point towards my body. Another way that I know that I have it lined up properly is if I'm using a pointed pen nib. Then you can see if I hold my pen, it's going to line up with the guideline as I pull it down. And so I had to turn it, that's pointed towards my body. I had to turn it even just a little bit more so that I could line my hand up properly to follow those guidelines. And it is going to be the same with your brush pen. If you can follow along those guidelines, that is a good angle to follow to get good pressure and a good consistent angle. If you're left-handed, it's going to be completely the opposite. Or sometimes they'll keep it like this, but right, kind of like upside down and backwards. Those lefties, they're really good at it. So the guidelines I have in here is the basic strokes, and then I have an empty set of guidelines for you to just practice on if you'd like it. And I'm just going to show you how I would go about practicing this. So if I got a new pen, here's my Pentel brush sign pen. I'm going to start at the top, and I've just got heavy pressure down. See, I'm following that thickness. You can see how it's thick over here. This guide sheet was made with the Le Pens from last month, so it's going to be just a little bit thicker. But as I follow that slant line, I'm pushing down to get it as thick as the nib will go. So if you're not getting consistent thickness, keep practicing. That's my tip for you. If your pen's not really being consistent, keep practicing until you get consistent lines. and then a light pressure up. Let me go between the lines so you can see that a little bit better. Again, if your lines aren't super consistent, you can see those aren't perfect, but if they're, going this way and that way and this way, keep practicing until you feel really comfortable with your pen. This would be called an entry stroke. It starts at the bottom and just a little curve up. That's going to be at the beginning of your letters. And an overturn is going to be light up, heavy down. Light up, heavy down. So you'll see that I'm following that slant line and then back down. Light up, heavy down, light up, heavy down. If you run out of practice room, grab some tracing paper and put it right over the top of this so that you can keep practicing for as long as you need. All right, and then an underturn is the opposite. Heavy down, light up, heavy down, light up, heavy down, light up. Okay, and then we have a compound curve. This is going to follow that slant line pressure. So I'm releasing the pressure about right here. About halfway through I'm releasing. That looks sloppy, but I wanted to slow it down. So I'm going light pressure. Oh, something on my pen. Light pressure, heavy. Okay, so right there I'm adding pressure, heavy. Right here I'm releasing, thin. Up, down, up. So I don't want to keep pressure clear till the bottom because then it's just not going to be a great transition. Thin, thick, light, heavy, light. Okay, so definitely keep practicing that until you get consistency. This is an ascending stem loop. Start in the middle. Light up, heavy down, light up, heavy down. And I was going a little fast, so that transition was not perfect. And a descending stem loop. Heavy down, light up, heavy down, light up. And you can see that was really wonky for me. It is okay to go back and touch that up. I do it all the time. Now, if you're to this point and you're still not seeing thick and thin lines, go back to this start. Go back and practice thick, 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 thin, thin, thin. Because until you really figure out how to manipulate the nib, this is going to be too stressful. So really work on getting those thick and thin lines. And if you're struggling and want to move on, you could use your fine liner, where it's just going to be like a pencil lead. Or just a pencil, and practice these shapes so you can start building muscle memory. That way you're not focusing on the pressure of the nib and the shapes at the same time. So if you're still struggling with pressure, go ahead and back up and work on thick and thin lines and figuring out your pen, and then move forward with the shapes. The oval, totally the hardest one, I promise. I'm going to start it right here, like 2 o'clock. It's going to be like a C shape. So I'm going to start about here. Light up, heavy down, light up. So it almost looks like a C. You see that? And I started right there. The reason I do that is because if I start at the top, it's going to be heavy down, light up. And you're never going to get a smooth transition. So really, 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 you need to start on this side so that you can get a smooth transition. Some letters will require a reverse oval, so it would just be a backwards C shape. This would be like in the letter B or P. And it's okay if this doesn't line up perfectly. The reason that is going to be okay is because, like I said, if it's the letter, well, I'll show you on the oval, the regular oval. If I do an oval like that, and then I'm going to come back in with an underturn to make an A, that downstroke is going to cover that connecting area. So it's going to be okay if it's not perfect. Just like in a P, you're going to have that. And just like in a B, you're going to have that ascending stem loop. So it's going to be okay if it doesn't connect perfectly, because your next connecting stroke is going to allow you typically to cover it up. Obviously, you don't want it way off, but usually you have enough with your next stroke to cover it up. Okay, so I've gone through and I've practiced. Don't stop there. If it's not consistent, throw some tracing paper over top or grab this other empty sheet so that you can just practice and really get comfortable with your brush pen. Okay, and then we have our capital and lowercase exemplars, and I always leave the backs of your workbooks blank so that you have plenty of practice space. So since I have never in my life written like Sugey, this is how I would practice. I'm just going to grab a pencil and I'm going to trace it, because these little flourishes are going to be new to me. And I want to see how she makes this style work and flow so nicely. So I see on the D, you could start here and do this D shape and then add the flourish, or you could start at the flourish. I can see that that's going to get really cramped probably if I start here. So just as I'm going over, I'm probably going to start here on the D. And there's the E. So anytime I'm learning a new script, I definitely get out my pencil, my tracing paper if I need it. Because this is a very modern, whimsical script, we don't necessarily need guidelines for this. It's going to be a little more upright and a little more just airy and bouncy. So a little more forgiving, where there's less rules and guidelines to follow. All right, I just went through those capital letters. If your hand is a little bit sore, that's totally normal. This was very different from my typical style and the other scripts that I'm trained in. So it does feel, I can feel a little bit of tension in my arm because I don't have this muscle memory like Sugey does or like I did for my script. So then I might be ready to grab my brush pen. And you're just going to look at Sugey's and see where she has thick and thin. If you think about where you naturally pull your hand down, that's where you're going to add pressure. Okay, so you can just trace right over the top of these. And I do like adding the flourish after. Okay. And I know I'm going to get this question. So how does the basic strokes tie into Sugey's Exemplar? Well, we start with the basic strokes. So again, I went over that pretty extensively in January. Once your basic strokes are consistent, you can start modifying them to create your own style. So if you look here, you can pick out how in each of these letters they have consistent strokes. So if you look at the K and the M and the R and the P, they all have that consistent downstroke with that entry flourish. That's just a way to analyze a new script and kind of what's going through my brain as I'm looking at Sugey's Exemplar. So then just grab some practice paper. If you want to draw just like a little baseline to kind of keep you in line, you can. If you want to freehand it, that's okay. This is a very, very modern script. So like I said, it's going to be really forgiving and I can't talk and practice at the same time. It's going to be very forgiving and allow for some style. So, like I said, I have never done Sugey's style before, so this is going to take me a little bit to get in the flow. But this is how I would practice. I would just pull it onto some practice paper. B. And then you can see that this B, this section of the B is going to be the same as the D. So that's where you're going to stay consistent within this script. Oh, I got a little wispy there. That's okay. See, Sugey is like, if you're watching this, you are like a wizard at these flourishes because it just doesn't come natural to me. So I'm feeling that. I'm going to just kind of stop with my brush pen and go back to my pencil because I want to get a feel of these flourishes. See how I'm not focusing on the brush pen and I'm just using the pencil. I can get a much nicer flourish. So I really got to step back and practice with the pencil here to kind of get the feel of these flourishes because we want consistency, right? That's what's going to create a nice alphabet script, is being consistent. So I do like adding the flourish after. So if I do my base letter, then I can add that flourishing. Okay, let's go through these. Okay, so I'm learning right along with you. I'm going to try my hand at the lowercase letters. Just going to grab my pencil again so I can see kind of how I'm going to get this consistent here. So just kind of looking at the page right away, you can see this nice curve coming off all of these letters is consistent. And then you can see this Q, R, D, And I bet you could even pull that B through. Oh, let's see. She goes this way to make a kind of, well, maybe not. That's probably why she didn't do it. Okay, so we've got the A. So just kind of look and see which letters are the same, which letters, you know, are kind of consistent. And then maybe you want to try those first. So this H has that curve, that M has that curve, the N, the I, and the L. So a lot of times when you're learning a script, I think a lot of teachers always start with I, because you're going to put the similar grouped letters together. So that's another way to practice, is you kind of look and see which ones can go in the same category. So just use this exemplar to kind of explore some style and some different variations. I love this F, that's so pretty. Just to explore some style as you create this month. Okay, and we've got these beautiful sample phrases that we could use on our envelopes or wherever, you know, you're using them on. And again, just sample phrases. I want you to kind of look and see how she's doing her layouts. And what I mean is that I'm looking and I'm seeing, okay, she's fitting in this flourish to fill in space here, space here. So maybe you don't want to put, you are my best friend. Maybe you're putting, you are my, I don't know. You are my best Valentine. And so maybe you're changing it up just a little bit, but you're kind of exploring how she's fitting those flourishes and curves in. And then like if you're looking here, if that flourish wasn't there, it would be an empty space. So just kind of use this as a guide as you're doing your layouts or your phrases as how you want to create a little phrase. So you could do this with your fine liner or your brush pen. Again, the brush pen, flexible, so it's going to be thick and thin. That's how you get those thicker lines. But these quotes are going to look really nice in monoline as well, where the nib is not flexible. So this is just a really handy art tool to have for outlining, for adding details, for monoline lettering. You might compare it to like a fine tip Sharpie, but it's going to be a nice crisp black rather than that kind of washed out purpley look a Sharpie might give you. So maybe on my card I want to put, let's just do this Happy Valentine's Day. I'm going to play with this one. Happy. Okay, I could have sketched that out with my pencil first if I wanted to do pencil and eraser and kind of get a better feel for it, but I was just freehanding it looking at Sugey's. Now, like I mentioned, I was doing this in monoline. If I want some thickness added in, I can go back over this and do some foligraphy. What foligraphy means is that I'm just adding some thickness to the downstrokes. So you don't have to have fancy calligraphy tools to make really pretty letters. You could make really pretty letters with just a pencil, but I did want to show you how you can use this fine liner, or maybe it is just a Sharpie you have lying around, to create thick and thin. And this is called foligraphy or fake calligraphy. without the thickness added. This is what would be referred to as monoline lettering because it's all one thickness. I started learning calligraphy with modern script, which is, like I mentioned, really forgiving, but it's also important to know the fundamentals. So that's why every month I'm kind of going to switch it up so we get some really fundamental lessons, and then you can see how the modern calligraphy stems from those fundamental lessons. But the nice thing about modern calligraphy is you can kind of look like, oh, I'm not sure I love this GR connection. Just an example, Suhei, I absolutely love that connection. But I just want to show them how if they start exploring different styles, then they can see, oh, well, I could make the G flourish like those type of flourishes rather than connect and then the R. Maybe I like that better. Or maybe you were here last month and you like how I specifically did the R's a little more loopy. So if I was doing that GR connection, maybe you added a little loop at the top. That's where your style as an artist is going to come in, okay? And then maybe this acenter here is pretty standard, and I love to add just plain ones in to balance the word out. But now that you're kind of seeing some style, you can say, oh, but I really love this F, how it curls back, and I want it to match. So you could tie in the same flourish on that acenter. Okay, so this is what I love about modern, is that you can look at so many different artist styles, and while keeping it consistent, you can tie in these unique things that's going to make it your style. So go ahead and practice some of these, practice some layouts, see how you like to fit things together, and then we can put it on our cards. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I might go about styling or designing my card. So I'm just kind of going to look here. I mean, you could do it this direction or this direction. And just personally, I just think it's going to fit nicely this way, especially with some of the phrases she gave us. I think they're going to fit nice this way. So I'm just going to keep this to my side as I'm deciding what I want to put on here. And I really love this Love is in the Air. I love them all. Suhei did a wonderful job. But I'm going to grab my pencil. Now, this is fine art paper, and so it's going to erase well, but do keep in mind to keep a light hand. I like the Ticonderoga pencils because they erase so well and they're very affordable. So I'm just going to kind of sketch here. Yep. Oh, see, I can't write like you, Suhei, but I am practicing because I love your style. If you have a light pad, that's something you could use, but I like you to also practice so that you can do this wherever you're at and you don't have to have a light pad. So see, she added in this pretty flourish to balance it out. I'm going to wait just until I get my other words in there to see how much I need to balance. Love is in. what do I want to do with my hearts? I like the idea of just leaving them in the card so that when the recipient opens them up, they kind of get showered with hearts. But you could also just glue a few on if you'd like. However you want to style your card. And then show us in the Facebook group because I want to see. But I think I might just glue a few here. Whatever you have handy, double-sided tape, glue dots. I mean, I'm sure you've got something around. This is just my son's school glue. Watermelon scented, even better. Just going to create this little collage here. Like that. And then this pencil line, these pencil lines are kind of dark. And I don't want them to shine through my ink on my brush pen. So I'm going to erase it, but not completely, just so I can still see my guideline. All right, and then I am ready to ink it. Any pieces that you think you want to. If you want to square off the tops, that's just a little tip of making things consistent as well. Okay, you might be antsy to go and erase it, but I'm going to advise you, it looks dry, just be patient. I know this from experience because I am the least patient person waiting for ink to dry. Just let that dry really good, and then you can do your lines. And then I'm going to go with the Stabilo and add in these cute little details. I never think about adding those open circles, and that's just really cute. So let's go in and add some of those. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I love this little style. Okay, so that's just one way to style your card. Maybe you wanted to put one of those greetings inside. Maybe you want to leave it blank to write in. However you want to style it is totally up to you. Definitely share with us how you did it. And I do want to just leave those loose ones in there because I think it's cute when you open the card and they fall out. I just love that. Okay, and now we're going to look at the envelope. Again, you have two in your kit, so definitely share with us how you did them, or try both styles. Try the straight and try the angled. I'm going to show you also a trick got to get more space here. So if I wanted to do the straight lines, I could get out a ruler and draw those, you know, just a few little guidelines in to keep me very straight and centered. Another tool that you could use is your light box. I'll link that last month's video again, because you could cut these out, darken the lines up, even with your Stabilo, darken those lines up, and then cut this out. And if your envelope is light enough, you could put it directly inside of the envelope and place it on top of your light box. I'm a little worried if, let me hold these up to the light. These would probably show through, definitely not through the metallic part. But that's one way you could do it. That's obviously not going to work for black envelopes or dark colored envelopes. But your white envelopes, that's a really handy way to keep the template just right inside and put it on your light box. And you can letter right over top of it, so you don't have to draw in the guidelines. And then another handy dandy tool, I will link this below, is a laser level. So this is the Black & Decker. And let's see, does this show up well in the video? And what I'm going to do is, if I wanted the straight lines, I'm going to center, I'm centering this on my envelope. And then, so there's the baseline. I'm lining it up. And then I could just draw a line, or I could just letter directly onto that line. Either way, whatever you're comfortable with. I really want to do this angled style because it goes so well with Sugey's. Okay, I'm wanting to turn the envelope, but that's not right. Okay, let me see here. If I just kind of put it like that, and then I'm just going to pencil in that, and then there's a baseline. And again, you could do this with a ruler, just, you know, lay your ruler across, and it's just to kind of help you stay consistent, because that's what makes your artwork really, really nice. And then, oh, that's rigid. And then the zip code. I don't know why that looks so off. I think I obviously did that one really, really off center. Okay. So I've got a little bit of a guideline there, a guideline there, and my guideline there. Same thing if you want to just lightly erase the pencil so that it's not showing through your lettering. That's a good idea. And I am going to make this out to a fictitious person, since this is going to be all over the internet. And I will just write, I'm gonna pull her, let's see, the capital Exemplar and lowercase Exemplar out, so I can kind of keep the style the same. So I'm just looking at the Exemplar and using that as a guide for my lettering. If you need to pencil it first, that is totally okay. A for pearl. If you're wondering where I come up with things to write, it's just whatever comes to your head first. Those are my mom's dogs. They were just here a couple hours ago. I guess that's why I thought of them. 2, 3, 4, 7. And if you read through the handouts, Sugey did put in that tip to put a little place marker there so you leave room for a stamp if this is something that will be going in the mail. So just put something there to remind you, don't write in that spot and cover up your pretty artwork. 42, 2347 Wallaby Way. Let's try a different letter. Okay, I added in that little flourish because I kind of needed to balance this out. Because it was a shorter city and state, I could have also put the zip up there, but I just balanced it that way, and then I'll put the zip code down here. I don't know a zip code. 73437. Okay. And then I'm going to go, oh, I should have turned this off. I'm going to go back to my card here and just erase my pencil lines. If there's anything you want to touch up on your card or your lettering, go ahead and do that. And then erase the guidelines on your envelope. And it is ready to send. Of course, write your message inside if that's what you're going to do. And I'll just kind of show you. If you're sending this in the mail, well, actually, let me back up. These are wax seals. If you're not familiar with wax seals, you can buy the setup where you can melt it with a glue gun or a little spoon and candle right onto your envelope. That gets kind of hard when you're just doing one envelope at a time. For me, where I'm doing like 50 wax seals at a time, the glue gun is nice, but they're really fun to have if it's something you would use a lot. I'll link the supplies down below. But I've provided you with pre-made wax seals, and they just have a pull-off sticker on the back with a double-sided tape. So you're just going to stick that down to seal your envelope. Now, these can be sent through the mail, through the post office. Do they always come out beautiful on the other end? Not always. It's a risk you take, but you can pay to hand cancel. So you would put your regular stamp, and then when you go into the office, the post office, you'll just ask the lady, and hopefully you'll get a really nice one, because some of them don't love to do this. But basically, you'll get your basic stamp, and then you'll go in and you'll say, I need to pay to hand cancel this. What that means is that they're going to put another little stamp on there, and you're paying them to physically, cross out the stamp and cancel it, rather than sending it through the machine, because the machines can damage these. So if this was like a wedding invite that, you know, you've spent a lot of time and dollars and whatnot on, or something that was, you really wanted to get to the person and make sure it wasn't damaged and stay there the whole time, just pay the few extra cents for hand canceling just to be safe. Okay, and there's my card, and I love how it turned out. It was a fun little different lettering style. Okay, so that was a super fun little project, and I really want to see how you guys styled yours with your hearts and your wax seals, so definitely share those in the group. And then you have these envelope templates to keep for future reference. Again, you could darken them up and use them inside of your envelopes if you have a light box, or use the laser level. So now we're going to take a look at our quote. And you guys, if you are subscribers, you chose this by voting several weeks back what you wanted to put for this month. One kind word can warm 3 winter months. So Sugey styled these two here. This one is done with the Stabilo fine liner, just a monoline style. If you want to choose that to put on your artboard, totally do that. And then this one is done with the Pentel brush pen. And then this is the style that I sent you. And I'm just going to show you my style and my process for creating this. So again, if you're new here, last month I went through this really extensively about how my brain kind of works, where I go through and I'm sketching, you know, I'm kind of looking at the quote and I'm looking for any words that stand out. This was kind of a quote that was pretty uniform. There wasn't necessarily one word that stood out, and if I did, I kind of started to put word and then it didn't really line up. So I just kind of was playing around with it, and this is what I came up with. So what I did is I sketched it right onto my artboard. Decide what style you like, or maybe you want to mix up mine and Sugey's style together and create something. This was off center, so I'm gonna back up just a little bit. Okay, and we're gonna go right here. One kind word. Okay, so when I was making this, I left what was called the skeleton of the words. I didn't add in the flourishing until I was completely done to balance it out. So you can kind of see one kind word, and then can warm 3. I want something to stand out. I'm just kind of playing here. All right, I want these T's to be balanced. I know that. And then I can kind of do a flourish like that, and I can flourish that D. I can flourish the N and that one. And then let's see, what can we do? And then I want to balance this out. So I'm going to make this really, really wispy to balance that. Okay, and that's kind of my process. If you're framing this and you wanted to cut it down to 8 by 10, you can do that. If you wanted to leave it 9.5 by 11, do that, totally whatever you want. I noticed that this is way off center. So if I was inking this, I would either erase and start over, or since I've done this enough, I know that I need to go one line down. So I'm just gonna do it right below, just because I've done this enough. I'm not gonna trace right over it. But if you need to, definitely erase and start over. Sorry, again, I can't talk and write at the same time. One kind word. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry really well and then go back and erase. I've got a lot of erasing to do. And then I will touch up with the brush pen and then show you how I detailed with the fine liner. Okay, we did this last month because I got impatient and went a little too soon again. But I've got a few ink smudges. So I'm going to use my sand eraser to clean up those smudges. Okay, I'm going to go back in and touch up any kind of shaky lines with the brush pen. And then I'm going to use the fine liner to add the credit to the Japanese proverb down here and add in the details. Again, the Stabilo is just a really great art tool to have handy, good for lettering and outlining and a variety of different things. So I was excited to include that in your kit this month. And then there is my completed art piece, and I'm going to go display on my fridge. Share with us where you display yours, if you frame it. Maybe you have a desk you're putting it on. I'd love to see. And remember, one kind word can warm 3 winter months. So that is everything in our kit this month. If you're just joining in, our subscribers get entered into a monthly giveaway. This month it is a set of the brush sign pens. These are a newer color they came out with recently, the pastels, and then a set of the fine liners. Really good giveaway. So you're automatically entered in when you're subscribed, and then if you're tagging and sharing, I kind of keep a tally behind the scenes, so you get some extra entries. So definitely share with your friends if you love this kit. And then I'm excited to share with you the next one. Thanks for joining along, guys. I'll link down below all the supplies and any additional supplies that might be recommended. And I can't wait to see you for the next one.